least you did have a little better year, my dear. And so we're going to give you $2 million next year instead of the 6 you want. She would have to live with that, and the owners would probably be happy. But yet, if that arbitrator came in and told the owner, no, she had a great year, we're going to give her $5.5 million instead of the 1, they'd have to do that. Case closed. And they usually only do that for 1 year. So if she signed a 3-year contract and brought in an arbitrator, they'd make the decision, we're going to give her $5.5 million, only 1 year, then you've got to get back to the bargaining table after that. Well, that's what they did in this particular situation here. Neither side, the United Mine Workers nor those individuals that hired them, could get anything going. So both sides agreed to arbitration. They brought in an arbitrator, and the arbitrator made the decision. What do you think, Leighton, that arbitrator said? Remember, they wanted higher wages and a shorter work week. Now, sometimes they'll come in and give them nothing, sometimes they'll give them everything, sometimes they compromise. What's your guess the arbitrator said here? What one? Did he give them both? Did he give them neither? Give them one? Which one did he give them? She's right. Nope, opposite. Gave them more money. Actually gave them a 27% wage increase. So the arbitrator came in and said, you know what, you've got some points here. I've heard both sides. We think that your bosses can afford to pay you more. You deserve more. I am making a ruling that you get 27% increase on your wages. But you are not getting anything on your shorter work week. And that was the decision was made. Can the United Mine Workers argue with that? No. Can the steel industry who hires them argue with that? No. That decision was made by an arbitrator, and that's the way it goes.
I don't want to be an arbitrator.
All right. Last thing we're going to talk about before I get into a personal story to make you understand strikes better is we're going to talk about the election of 1920. Who's the President of the United States? Wilson. I forgot to tell you this, but it was actually President Wilson who suggested that these United Mine Workers in the coal industry go to arbitration. He's the one that suggested that. I'm not so sure what this why. Because remember, she kind of ran things at the end, right? And he obviously isn't going to run for re-election here, right? Because he had a bad stroke, so this will be a wide open election. So, the election of 1920. The Republicans are going to nominate a fellow by the name of Warren G. Harding. And guess where he is from? Like many, many we've talked about from this state. Where have we had most of our presidents from? Ohio. Very good. Ohio. Warren G. Harding was a former U.S. Senator from Ohio. Considered a very easygoing man. But he had it whipped. He was smart. Who gives politicians the most trouble?
Press.
The press. He owned his own newspaper in Ohio. So he actually kind of in a way controlled the press because he owned a newspaper. That's unusual. So Warren G. Harding was a Republican nominee. He was the owner of a newspaper in Ohio. He had climbed to the top of a political ladder in his home state, and he once served as United States Senator from Ohio. Was very easygoing. Who was his vice presidential running mate? Come on, don't let me down. Calvin Coolidge. Very good. Because of the press that he got on the police strike, Calvin Coolidge was nominated as the vice presidential candidate on the Republican side of things in 1920. Now the Democrats nominated another Ohioan, the governor of Ohio, James M. Cox. So we have 2 guys from Ohio running for president. That's how popular Ohio has become here lately. So the Democrat Party nominates Ohio Governor James M. Cox for the presidency. And who did he nominate for the vice presidency? Might surprise you.
Roosevelt.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Okay? Now, how many people realize that FDR lost the vice presidency in 1920? Anybody know that? Why did he lose it? He's so famous. Why did he lose that?
President was that?
What?
Was the president that?
No?
Because
What? He wasn't from Ohio, not necessarily. Nobody really knew him yet. He wasn't famous yet. Okay? So, the Democratic Party nominates Ohio Governor James M. Cox for the presidency, and newcomer Franklin D. Roosevelt for the vice presidency. Republicans nominate Warren G. Harding for the presidency, and Calvin Coolidge, governor of Massachusetts, for vice presidency. This was really a lot that wasn't as close as people thought. In the Battle of the Ohioans, Harding defeated Cox 404 electoral votes to 127. Harding defeats Cox 404 to 127 to become the nation's 29th president. So in the election of 1920, Warren G. Harding wins the Battle of the Ohioans. He defeats Governor James M. Cox of Ohio, 404 electoral votes to 127 to become the nation's 29th president of the United States. Okay? Now, that'll take us to our next subtopic, what I want you to write down. We'll be ready for tomorrow. We won't go into it though, which is public scandals during the Harding administration. And this was going to hit close to home because it involves the state of Wyoming. What? Public scandals during the Harding administration. Now let me tell you a little bit about strikes and how strikes can affect you in lots of ways.